on this episode of Edge of the Web.
Stop getting trigger happy with plugins, right? Don't drink and add plugins. I go into WordPress sites occasionally. I don't get to play with them much anymore. And there'll be something like 47 plugins, each of it adding its own, insecurities, and that's tough. So if you can start simple, think about what's important on the website and start removing all else, that'll get you a good step toward a better speed rate.
Your weekly digital marketing trends with industry trend-setting guests. You're listening and watching Edge of the Web. Winners of Best Podcast from the Content Marketing Institute for 2017. Hear and see more at edgeofthewebradio.com. Now, alongside Tom Broadbeck, here's your host, Aaron Sparks.
Do you think we should keep that intro going with the 2017 Content Marketing Award?
I was just thinking the next year will be 2 years old.
I know. Hey, but it's still a really good thing.
We can just cut out the year.
Yeah, just edit it. Hey, we're broadcasting from Edge Media Studios. Welcome, everybody. It's kind of like you're in our living room as we're talking strategy. Hey, every week we bring you the latest marketing trends, digital marketing trends from around the world, and talk to some fantastic influencers and specialists in the digital marketing field. Check out all the shows that we do over at edgeofthewebradio.com. That's edgeofthewebradio.com. The show is actually sponsored by the title sponsor, Site Strategics, your agile digital marketing partner. And if you're interested in what that is, it's results-based marketing that's adjusting based on need, based on what we see each and every month going forward. So if you want to check that out, go to sitestrategics.com and just drop us a note. Be happy to sit down and have a Skype session or a Zoom session, be able to kind of unpack what's working for your site, what's not working for your site, where maybe your competitors are beating you out, and we may actually be able to talk to you about some good strategies or some tactics right then and there. So give us a shout. You can also call us at 877-SEO for Web or 877-736-4932. I'm your host. I'm gonna take a breath now because I've been running. I got here 2 minutes before the show. My name's Aaron Sparks. I'm the owner of Site Strategics, and to my left we have our kindred spirit here of digital media gold. Whatever, I don't know. I'm just putting stuff together now. It's Tom Broadbeck. He's the director of digital media. Sir, how you doing?
I'm getting ready for the holiday season.
Oh yeah. So what's new this year at the Broadbeck family?
What's new?
Yeah. Oh, you got a little one, and she's starting to actually get into it. So
sleep would be nice.
Everybody,
literally a 2 hour ordeal to get her to bed now. I fall asleep before she does.
Well, you got to be careful there because literally, you got to make sure that you don't fall asleep on her.
That's true.
Yeah.
I don't sleep on her. No.
Did I ever tell you?
She got sent to the principal's office since she's 2.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, I didn't tell you that.
No, you did not.
Because she won't sleep at nap time at daycare, so they sent her to the principal's office.
Oh, that's when all the fun happens.
I know.
Because all the other kids are down. She can pick on them. No?
I don't know. The daycare teacher said has the strength of a small bear. It takes her 2 people to pin her down on the little cot that they have for her to lay down.
Oh, that's funny.
You're welcome.
The strength of a small bear.
That's why we pay you.
Yeah. Oh, you better be working out, daycare people. We'd like to introduce our guest who's listening quite patiently as we roll through our Christmas travails. Let's introduce Ashley Berman-Hale. She's a technical SEO lead with DeepCrawl. How are you doing, Ashley?
Pretty good. I'm going to go for 7 out of 10.
7 out of 10.
Yeah. Thomas
Way to bring the energy, Ashley.
Okay. All right. Okay. 8. 8 out of 10.
Are we just going to sit here and wait until you percolate? What's going on?
This is just as good as it gets.
Okay, there's Ashley, everybody. So Ashley, DeepCrawl is a fantastic tool. We at Site Strategics use it often. It's a fantastic, deep technical analysis SEO tool. So we want to unpack that. But you know what, Ashley? Love to have you comment on the digital news this week. You game for it?
Only if I can get points to have Carl Castle on my voicemail.
Ooh.
No,
Well, we may actually get you up to 9 on the other side of this.
Does anyone else listen to Wait, Don't Tell Me? No. Okay.
No,
yeah,
sorry.
I'm not an NPR devotee, but our production assistant evidently is. All right, let's take you through the latest digital marketing news.
Put that cookie down now!
This week's trending topics.
All right, so trending topic number one from Search Engine Land, Barry Schwartz, throwing in hey, check this out. Google launches its Q&A structured data for question and answer pages. Tom, I thought we had Q&A in the Google My Business. What's all this about?
Yeah, so now if you have a page dedicated to a certain question,
Yep.
you can add a format, a rich result format to your page, so it'll appear with a rich result on a Google SERP.
I love it.
And this will also, I assume, tie into the Google Home voice assistant devices as well. So I read they have a whole page. There's a link in here. We'll put it in the show notes as well to the developer resources on how to implement the new structured data. And this is not something for an FAQ page or whole. So it's for one individual question, one individual answer. Not if you have a FAQ page with 50 questions on it.
Okay, so are you telling me that, again, being an SEO, are you telling me that I could possibly have 50 different question pages with one single question with a schema markup?
You can have 50 questions with 50 answers on the same, like 50 pages total,
Right.
one question and an answer on each page.
Boy, that's going to change strategy.
with the structured data attached to it.
Yep. So this is a rich snippet. It's schema data that puts in place here, and they're teeing it up for us to feed the smart speakers, the home devices, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, from a voice search concept, Ashley, what are your thoughts about a single question and answer page?
It's more applicable than most of the other markup we see out there for voice. I mean, voice is one of those ones. It's kind of exciting and kind of a thorn in my side because everyone wants to talk about it, but there's not a lot that most sites can or should be doing with it.
Correct.
So the Q&A thing seems like a perfect fit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, schema.org's been around, the structured data has been around for over 10 years now. So it's nice that it's getting a little more useful.
Right.
I like them playing with the different types of rich results, and I'm interested to see how that looks in Search Console too. But the Q&A stuff makes sense. We're going to abuse it a little bit because we're shits, but I'm excited to see how this thing a while. Not we, the universal we.
We're SEO shits. That's the name. That's the subtitle of this show today. It does match the voice search needs, right? But it's going to open up thin content a mile wide, isn't it? I mean, how much can you put into one answer on one page? I mean,
There's some studies too on the amount of text that will actually be read and be comprehended, right? When we're listening to voice, our memories are even smaller than usual. So you probably shouldn't be giving me more than X amount of words. I think it's worth testing and worth playing with. I'd be curious to see how they match the keywords in the question to what's actually on your page.
Yeah.
But I think if you're really jonesing to play, mess with the speakable attribute for starters, because that's a schema attribute too. And you can see how your stuff might show up. That I think isn't supported globally. I know it's supported in the US, but it's a fun one to play around with.
very cool. Good information there. I do think, and we talk about voice search. We give voice to the voice search on the show on a regular basis, but these are practical tools, and we're starting to see alignment there that we have a new avenue to be able to really make use and be able to deliver that information to that destination. Tell you what, Google just had a destination in WordPress over at Search Engine Journal from Matt Southern. Google introduces the WordPress plugin with integrated analytics, Search Console, and more. Yoast. Here's something to challenge you. Google's actually introduced a new WordPress plugin which brings insights from Google Tools to users' dashboard. Sitekit, K-I-T, by Google allows users to access information in Search Console Analytics, AdSense, and page speed insights from the WordPress admin panel. Quote from Google: with Sitekit installed, Kit, not Kick, my gosh. Thinking about HubSpot. Sidekick was all the rage there for a while. Sitekit installed, WordPress can actually can access unified insights and Google product capabilities directly from the WordPress admin panel. Where it is helpful, SiteKit will also provide deep links into Google products for advanced reports and product configuration capabilities. I don't think I've ever seen this type of rollout of a plugin from Google. I could be very well mistaken.
No, I think this is their first one.
Is it?
Or, maybe. I don't know.
Well,
Does Ashley know?
Ashley. Any
Of
other?
course I know, right? Yeah, so I mean, they've done some integrations and some work with a few different platforms.
Right.
Gosh, dang it, what's one of them that I'm thinking? Is it Square? So they have
Squarespace, yeah.
different places where they're porting data in, and with their API, you can port certain bits of data in. But this, I believe, is the first time they really made an effort to meet webmasters where they are. So, it actually doesn't compete with Yoast. So if he cries, no need. We're all still friends. But before even validating your site in GSC and then porting just basic data from WordPress over, like using WordPress to validate your site was kind of a pain, and it took many steps. This basically takes it down to like 1 or 2 clicks, and then it's pulling just top level data right into WordPress. And the thing is, small business owners don't really care and spend time in GSC and GA.
Right.
I know it's the hot spot where the party happens for us.
That's right.
But for the normal people,
Wait a minute.
bless their souls, they're not there. So I think it's even a lot to ask to get people in their WordPressing unless they're publishing content. But I see it as a big move, as like, hey, we know you're not going to go into all of our stuff, but let us at least bring some basics to you.
All right, I got
pretty friendly.
Have you already installed one? Have you went through that with the SiteKit? Have you checked it out?
No, it's in beta. So I signed up for beta to see if I can test it. We'll see if I am lucky on that lottery. I pinned a $5 note to my submission.
Oh, Google's not in it for the money. But I got a question here, because we also know that Google is truly taking a very, very sincere focus on the capabilities of websites, and most importantly, whether sites are exploited or hacked. And I mean, they're paying a very good amount of attention, even to the degree of jailing some sites that have not attended to hacks or rootkits that are publicly known and have been complained about by Google members. So is this also, I mean, you're now inviting Google onto the premises inside of your WordPress environment at a PHP scripting level, right?
Yeah. I don't think they're getting anything they're not already getting.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
It's just a quick drop in. I wouldn't be too worried about that. All the stuff that they're going to see with exploitations, they're going to be able to see anyway.
Yeah.
And they are strict, but I'm going to, you guys, I get accused of being a little bit of a fangirl. It's true. Not really a fangirl. I just don't think Google's as evil as many others think they are. But I think with their ultimate goal of security is to keep users safe. Webmasters are secondary. So while they are alerting us and letting us know, we're not their primary target there. They want to get that stuff out of the SERPs to protect other people. And I think sometimes you feel that a little bit, right? Depending on where they give it or how much information they give you to recover. But that's the main issue. They got to stop the propagation of this junk.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. However, they did propagate a little bit of junk themselves. This next article from Frederick Lardenoy, TechCrunch, Google Plus. Did you see how I segued that? That was fun. Nice. Google Plus bug gave developers access to non-public data from 5.2 million users.
52.5.
Oh, 50. Oh, yeah. Wow. We just increase that number. 52.5 million users. Google Plus. Are we able to say RIP yet on Google Plus? Are we?
Well, that's what this is about.
Yeah. Well,
burn it down.
Burn it down.
I used it and loved it. I moderated a forum in there that was actually pretty fabulous. For the last 2 years, I mostly go in once a year and go, oh, hey, shoot, sorry. I'll be back again, I promise. And then I do it again in a year. So I think it's ready to be retired. I don't think there are a lot of places or a lot of special features that need to be replaced elsewhere. And from what I understand, they're just moving up that closing date because of the exploitation.
Yeah.
I think the real news is 52.5 million users, huh?
I didn't know they had that many employees over at Google.
Burn. Sick burn.
Yeah, torch it, set it on fire. So there was a major security bug in October, and they disclosed that that affected just under 500,000 users. But and they also announced that they were going to be shutting it down in August of this year. They're disclosing that they. So, what is the sensitive information that they were actually releasing? It was available to other developers: names, emails, occupation, gender, birthday, relationship status, and age. There's obviously no deep secure stuff. However, I mean, from a birthday and email, yeah, you've got some data that you could possibly exploit. Well, what are they doing to actually repair that?
They're going to shut it down in April now instead of August. So they're just moving up the deadline to 90 days.
But the data's already out there.
I mean, you can't take it back. I mean, you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube as it's already out.
Unring the bell. Yeah, nice.
All right, so rip Google Plus, and sooner rather than later, let's just get the heck out of that place. It's a bad place to be. All right, so what's not bad is signing up for the newsletter that we send out each and every week. Sign up for the Edge of the Web newsletter over the website. Give us your email, and we won't use it for anything else. We certainly won't let it be exploited. But sign up right there, and we'll be able to send you great nuggets of gold about who we're interviewing, who's coming up, what we talked about last show, and the news stories that we covered. So you can also text to the number 22828, the word Edge Talk. And Ashley's doing it right now. Nope, she's taking a drink. There she is. She's going. And sign up today. We'd love to have your input. Let us know how we're doing on the newsletter and what we can bring to your inbox. All right. Follow all the featured topics and trends over at edgeofthewebradio.com. Now let's deep dive with this week's featured guest.
Now it's time for Edge of the Web featured interview with Ashley Berman Hale, technical SEO lead for Deep Crawl.
So, I mean, to be a technical SEO lead at one of the top technical SEO applications, I mean, it's almost like it's like Inception. It's like the best of the best of the best of the best, right?
Yeah, I think I'm pretty smart. So I do good work.
How's your rating? Are you up to a 9 yet, Ashley? Come on, I got to get. You're getting there. Okay, just got to stroke her a little bit more and. Well, let's introduce Ashley to our listeners and our guests. For 15 years, Ashley has been working to make sites better by specializing in technical SEO, mobile accessibility, speed, structured data, and more. She has experience ranging from in-house with large companies, consulting, and working with agencies. She's also a Google top contributor in the Google Webmaster Forum. Now, as a technical SEO lead with Deep Crawl, she actually helps clients with their SEO on a regular basis, and it's, like I said, a hell of a tool. Ashley, give us your unofficial backstory. How in the world did you get to digital marketing?
Oh, this is fun. Are you ready?
Go for it.
So let's see. Where should I start? I have a degree in art history, which I make a lot of bad jokes about, but in all honesty, some of the good critical thinkers and analysts I know have degrees in the liberal arts. So it's not so bad. I'm one hell of a waitress and made a lot of money doing that for a while. But when I decided I couldn't do that full time, I went to go work for a tech company, after hours answering people's emails who were too busy to answer them themselves. So that's where I got started. And then it was just really a matter of playing around. When I was 11 or 12, I built my first website. And back then it was all tables and HTML. So viewing source just opened the world for you. That website is still live on GeoCities. No Angel Fire because I can't take it down because I lost my credentials. So go and enjoy angry 9th grade me. I'm out there somewhere. It's pretty bad. So I just started tinkering. And I ended up in companies that were growing a lot. So if I got my job done, they let me do what I wanted. So the first one was Overstock. I was with a travel company they bought out. They were building up a dev team and a content management platform, and they let me tinker. It just sort of went from there. I actually got started a bit in the Google Help forums. Back then, it was just Sitemaps was the only, I think it was Sitemaps and Gmail were the only two forums. There was no Webmaster, anything. Webmaster was XML Sitemaps, and that was it. And I asked a question and stayed to answer. And I'm a bit of an internet troll and a curmudgeon, so I love the forum lifestyle. So I just went back and learned from there.
Okay, and keep on going. So, hey, I want to hear more. Let's go. Let's go.
Oh man, let's see. So yeah, I've worked Overstock and Cisco were my big jobs. Cisco actually never let me do SEO, even though I kept telling them I was all right at it. But worked for really large companies, and then I've worked for a lot of great agencies and individuals. I've done a lot of consulting and ended up at Deep Crawl. I think mostly I'm just in the gig because I can talk my way into the door and just like to pop up in the hood and look around and find problems. It's basically like a way to be a CIA agent when you couldn't pass the government background check.
Ooh, so we're on a reject path. Did you actually? No, I mean technical SEO. We love technical SEO in this in Site Strategies because that literally is. Sometimes you can just unimpede something inside of the code, and miraculously, it's like Scotty working on the warp engine, right? All of a sudden, it just goes. That's reference number one.
Yeah, I know. I was referencing you guys before the show. We were talking a little bit about track.
Yep, it permeates. It truly does.
Yeah, I could do this all day. Let's see. So you're right. And the thing is, a lot of SEO still has that sort of touchy, feely, soft, nebulous. Like, I want the site to read well. I want to feel good when I'm there. I want, the site to cater to me. And that stuff's great.
Mm-hmm.
I have a tough time putting that into words or explaining what I want. I just kind of know what my gut says. But with technical SEO, I can go through the pipes and I can figure out what's busted and then I can fix it and see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really satisfying to me.
Absolutely. A lot of technical SEO has really pulled us into rendering times, minification of scripts and JavaScript. A lot of stuff that, unfortunately, we can't always control because it's at a server level. And those are always big wins, but it's also a difficult challenge for a lot of SEOs. Can you give us some insight on that? Because it really has started to take on as a primary issue, hasn't it?
Site speed in particular, yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's two paths to that. So the first one is, more people are on mobile. You may not always be on Wi-Fi. You want it to be pretty lean. But I also think pushing for faster, leaner sites is really important globally because there are going to be people that have less access to data or their data is far more expensive. People in other countries especially, or people even in the rural US who have difficulty reaching those. So it's about getting content that's available to more folks in the easiest way.
Mm-hmm.
But it's tricky. And I will say, there are lots of different tools that can help webmasters, especially if you're on a common platform like WordPress, for example. And, the really tough part is figuring out how to fix it. I think if there was a place you can start, just make sure your hosting is good and your server's up all the time.
Mm-hmm.
After that, start removing things from your site.
Yep.
So ads and analytics pixels are killers. If you have any sort of Bluetooth thing for beacons
Mm-hmm.
will kill batteries and run things down pretty quickly. So start removing every third-party thing that you can that's not going to affect the base functionality of your website, which are also security risks anyway. So win-win.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah, start there and you'll end up with something pretty simple. I mean, that's essentially what AMP is. Right. So AMP is, hey, we want to make things lean and fast. And all it did was get rid of all the extraneous stuff. You can do a lot of that on your own.
And Google took it over and hosted it themselves so they can actually control the speed. Inside of the WordPress realm, however, I mean, what's the percentage of WordPress websites now? Is it like 60?
1 billion.
Yeah, 1 billion percent. But the essence of WordPress is it's like Snap-on tools, and you also have to be able to remove those plugins. And the problem is they all come with their own existing CSS, their own JavaScript. So the essence of the beast is you can't mash all that JavaScript together because you're never going to be able to pull that plugin out, right? So there are problems whenever you're trying to get down that deep and start removing those pieces because it's not a holistic thing. It's a modular environment inside of WordPress.
Yeah, and a lot of those plugins will add their own pixels too. So you may
Right.
think you're getting one ads platform and then it shows in 22 others, which is just rude. Just rude.
How
I
dare
think
they?
should not do that. I shake my fist at thee. And yeah, that's really tricky. I think the tough part is once you've built out a website and you have all the plugins, it can be really hard to deconstruct and simplify that. That's, I think, why a lot of people were doing AMP as separate versions rather than supplanting their whole site. But just stop getting trigger happy with plugins, right? Don't drink and add plugins. I go into WordPress sites occasionally. I don't get to play with them much anymore. And there'll be something like 47 plugins, each of it adding its own, insecurities, and that's tough. So if you can start simple, think about what's important on the website and start removing all else, that'll get you a good step toward a better speed rate. Other than that, there's a ton of really good tools out there. Google just launched the web.dev, which integrates a lot of the Lighthouse data. I just think it looks a little prettier and you can see the larger scope of how things are performing too.
For our users that don't know how to look at all the things that are loading on their site, we always recommend waterfall tools to be able to see, kind of a chronology of what loaded when on a given page. Any recommendations of waterfall tools that are out there?
The ugliest one is my favorite. So that's webpagetest.org.
Yeah.
It hasn't been redesigned for forever, but it's super effective. And they have a cool feature. I'm going to keep harping on this, be good for humans all over the world, but they have a cool feature that estimates the cost to load each of your pages. So there's a little dollar sign up at the top. It's easy to miss, but if you click it, it'll show you, divided by, say, 20 countries, the essential cost to download the full weight of the page to interact with it. That can be pretty eye-opening.
How long has that been actually at webpagetest.org?
I mean, since before I was born. Just kidding. I'm old.
No, you're not.
I don't know. You have to look way back, but it's been around a while.
No, and those things they're eye-opening. And whenever you actually show what loads in a website to a client, I mean, they're just blown away because they honestly don't know. But you inherit a lot of sites from previous developers, right? And you start seeing some of the garbage that they put in there. And I guess this is where I'm going from a WordPress environment. Knowing the theme, if you actually are deploying store-bought themes in a site, you got to know what you're getting as well, because there can be some really crappy code under the hood, so to speak. And unless you're testing it out before you buy it, you literally could be doing so much damage weighing this thing down. I'm talking about font kits, most especially. Those things are going everywhere, and those are all
web-safe fonts. Just use a web-safe font.
Absolutely. But have you seen an evolution of cleaner themes, lighter themes in the space?
I think a lot of folks are focusing on lighter now, which is great. I think you see these waves of trends of WordPress templates. Like, it was really great to see accessibility be pretty important and mobile responsiveness be important. I think some are lighter. I think it's important to note that a template that you find on WordPress.org, they've been reviewed by WordPress and are generally safer. But then you have that added layer of keeping the theme and WordPress up to date.
Right.
So, I mean, I love WordPress. It's accessible. Lots of people can use it, but that also means that it's pretty fun to exploit too. So, but there are still some really heavy themes out there. It's really, I would say, if you can, go through, run demos, find sample sites, and then start doing some tests on those sites before you pick up the theme.
Absolutely.
It's not going to one-to-one represent, but look at builtwith.com or run PageSpeed Insights or look at webpagetest.org and just see everything that's picked up with that base theme.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You just did a webinar.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, with our friend John Mueller of Google about what to expect in 2019. We love John. John loves us a little bit, I think. He gave us some props here a while back. You unpacked some things coming up in 2019. Would you share some highlights here?
Here are some highlights. I mean, at the beginning, I think he did a good job of saying what he sees as the themes for 2019. Some of these, aren't really that surprising, but the new Google Search Console, there's a lot going into that. I'm starting to get some pretty aggressive messaging on reports retiring for certain clients. So that's a big refocus. And I think that goes along with the Search Console integrations, like with SiteKit. So it really feels like they're putting a lot of energy behind that. Mobile first indexing will continue to be big. Nothing super sexy to talk about there, I think. Structured data, which just delights me. I think structured data is really fun to mess around with. I think there's a lot of potential there, and it's been around for a long time, so it feels like it's going to stick around. And then JavaScript. So more in the context of, hey, these sites are being built on more modern platforms now. We need to understand how they work. us as SEOs, but also potentially businesses, and the devs should understand how SEO works. And we're into this spot now where the default for most websites being sold and being built will have some JavaScript functions that require those scripts to load in order for you to engage. So, the big takeaway is, hey, we probably have to specialize and get a little more technical, which is great because I love job security. But, we're just going to see more and more of those sites.
I'm getting a sense of a resurgence of technical SEO that's happening this year. I've just seen a lot more insight into things that need to be changed, and the tools are getting fantastic in being able to pull those things out, isolate them, and be able to test the improvement. Where we were 5 years ago, we're in a much better space from a technical SEO standpoint, and it's being embraced more and more as one of the ongoing regular tactics that you have to run in any digital marketing campaign. Have you seen an embrace digital marketers are they're supposed to be these T marketers where they're not just isolated, but they can appreciate different skill sets. Are you seeing an appreciation of technical SEO by other marketing professionals in a little bit deeper way nowadays? I hope.
A little. I think that we're still like the redheaded stepchildren. God, that's a really horrible adage.
Yeah, it really is. Why do you say that? My child has red hair, and oh, never mind.
I think that there's, with familiarity breeds likeness. So there's that philosophical principle of if we keep talking about stuff and expose it more, it's less scary, and then there's less resistance. So I think that, we're getting a little bit of a resurgence, and it's something that can be talked about and is being talked about a lot. There's some really amazing journalists and writers, and you guys on the podcast, and lots of people that are getting the word out there that I think helps to break down some of those barriers. I don't think that everyone loves and embraces this yet. I think that technical SEOs have a lot of work to do to approach their jobs with compassion rather than superiority. So, we know that if the site doesn't function, the content doesn't matter. But we can't just go and, start throwing the wrecking ball around with that, and claiming to be first. So I see more specialization, but I'd like to see more reaching across the aisle. I think we're on the upswing, and I think a lot of technical SEOs are doing really cool things and building those relationships, but it's not perfect. But I think, the specialization is natural too. I always like to use the horrifying example of, back in the day, your doctor was your dentist, was your gynecologist, and those, it's fine. Like stuff got done, people lived, I get it. But, as medicine evolved, you start getting more specialists. But of course, to get good care, your doctors have to work together. So. Absolutely. No, that's a good analogy. And you just don't want to ignore certain specialists either. Is that a huge win, an 80-20 win can be technical SEO, and it can spearhead a lot of improvements very, very quickly. So come on, social media people, embrace your knowledge a little. I'm just calling them out because. And I know technical SEO isn't super sexy. I get it. I can finally look for jobs now that are for technical SEOs instead of it being like digital strategy and me being like, so what do you mean about digital strategy? Because I can't market at all, but I can fix stuff. So we're getting there. Good. All right, something that came out of the woodwork, and Site Strategics actually dove into it over the last couple of years. ADA and the electronic section of the ADA, American Disabilities Act area. I even know it's Section 408. Dang, you're sharp. Yeah. God. I used to give presentations around the state on that. That came out of the woodwork, and we were seeing a number of lawsuits that are happening to companies that were not accessibility compliant. What we mean by that, if you don't know what ADA is, on the website of things, it's visually impaired. If you're not serving up content for the visually impaired, auditorily impaired, psychographically impaired, and that's a whole nother bailiwick right there. But the main thing is, if you don't have captions on your videos, if you don't have alt tags that are actually describing the images, there's these tiers of compliance that have been around for literally 20 years. Yeah. I mean, and the act that was written was adopted into law 10 years ago, and we had 10 years to get our stuff together.
That's right.
Before lawsuits started flying.
Right, right. So there was an example. Winn-Dixie got a $250,000 lawsuit because their pharmacy page was not ADA compliant. This is real stuff, and the government has been focused on schools and school districts. That was a big target over the course of a couple of years. We here at Site have been trying to kind of run the banner for ADA that has to be a design principle. What are you seeing on the accessibility side, and how serious is that factor whenever you're building out a website? Can you give us some ideas there?
Oh, I want to say just do it because it's a good human thing to do, but that doesn't always sell. Seeing it present on more third-party tools helps. So Lighthouse and the web.dev really highlighting accessibility has helped me do my job advocating for it, because if Google says it must be right versus the woman across the table telling you it's a good idea. So that's helped the argument. How I've usually had to sell it really is just that SEO, or not SEO, bots really crawl like people who are visually impaired. That's not really the case anymore. The web rendering service is a lot for you, but I think that's an easy way for people to digest why these are important basics for SEO and moving the needle. I think we start there, and then maybe can evolve into having more of those conversations about doing what's right for more people and opening up accessibility just in terms of how they can get your content. But until that happens, I will continue to learn on, these are basics of getting your content crawled and understood and ranked.
They are very ADA guidelines are very similar to SEO, technical SEO guidelines. In fact, they're almost hand in glove in a lot of ways. Whatever you do on the compliance side is absolutely going to be in the same space as technical SEO. But there are so many regulations. You can get yourself down a rabbit hole, and the AAA compliance you just can't fix so many times, especially whenever you're dealing with third-party code, themes that somebody around the world actually published. One, how do we get people to embrace that? And two, do we see this ever? Is this just going to be the new web build space? Is that we have to have that as an additional factor? You're right. Is that for the good of all? This should be there, but we need some helping hands, I think, to be able to do this, because it can be a long, drawn out process being compliant.
Yeah, and although I like to have the banner of just being good for goodness sakes, it is hard as hell. It's expensive.
Yeah.
It is not always going to be worth it. It's not always going to move the needle. So I think where I get nervous is we know that it'll take time, that we had these laws in place 10 years ago, that now they're coming out, we're seeing lawsuits, but we know that it's not always feasible to sites hit every single one of those elements in the ecosystem we have now. So it'll probably teeter a little bit, find a balance, but then continue to grow. What I'm most concerned about is that we start closing off the web and different components and modules that can make websites really fantastic and feature rich, just because it becomes too cumbersome to control that.
Right.
Maybe that's part of why Google got ahead a little bit with partnering and pulling out AMP, because that's what they are. They're streamlined modules with accessibility, or components, I should say, with accessibility built in. It's just like a really, really clean framework. And if they have that, then they can sort of control and see the anomalies as quick as possible. But I don't know where it's expensive. I don't know where it's going to fall in terms of who's checking, who's advocating, how they're writing the fines, who follows up. I mean, it's a hot mess.
It really is. Like I said, I worked with school districts, and in that space, it was an unfunded government mandate, because these districts don't have any funds to be able to throw that kind of time and dollars out of fixing 32 different school websites, let alone the teachers' websites that they built to be able to help their students, which also fall under the entire district. And it's a scenario where there has to be some compromise in this space. But at the same time, to finish up on ADA, you don't have to fix everything all at once. You can communicate your intent. You can put some addressing ADA issues and compliance at the bottom of your page, be able to have a page that helps guide people that do have these disabilities. So you don't have to be petrified by the issue, but you do have to show progress regularly, especially if you get cited by a complaint, because then you get the Office of Civil Rights in there and. Sorry, it is a hot mess. It really is.
It is. And there's a really great checklist. So Wave, I think it's wave.org, has a really good test that'll go through and show everything. But there's it's not through ADA specifically, but it's the WCAG 2.0 checklist.
Mm-hmm.
Someone Google that. Someone's in front of a computer.
Yep, it is. Yep.
And that checklist is really great because it's written in a way that we can put that in front of most webmasters' hands or developers, and they can start looking at some of those things. But it's that familiarity too, right? We need to make this a part of our discussions when we talk to our devs. We need to discuss it with our clients. I really see folks in our industry not as being fully responsible for, but being able to be ambassadors for these types of best practices. I mean, I think that for general SEOs, at least 50% of your job is education. I mean, that's something that we take on with this, and this is a great place to get your foot in the door.
Absolutely, and we'll put in the show notes some of those sites as well. It's very good information, and to be able, you can actually test out your own site with a lot of these websites out there, and scan your site and be able to see. There could be some blaring things that you can fix immediately. Alt tags on images. That's an SEO play all the time, but my gosh, it is an ADA compliance play as well. All right, jumping into structured data. It's been almost like the year of structured data. What do SEOs need to know about structured data? How important is it right now?
Oh, let's see. I think it's medium important. I'm going to go 6 out of 10 on importance. I'm going to caution, though, a lot of people get super excited, and there's so many different schemas that you can be adding to your pages. Right. Resist the temptation, but get started with the core ones. So if you haven't started already, getting stuff like products and reviews, companies, same as, if they're individual authors, things like that, or marking up article pages or Q&A, those are great places to start. You can actually mark up ponds and all sorts of funny things. Schema.org is like a great place to like just have 2 beers and start thinking about what you could mark up. That's what I do on the weekends. Anyway.
Wow, she went super geek there. Did you see that? She went like from 5 to like 50 in geekdom right there.
That makes me a 9 out of 10 right now.
Now there you go.
Thank you.
Turn schema into a drinking game, everybody.
It all works. It all works. So yeah, I think that with structured data, it's important that you can get started in a way that's pretty easy. You don't have to go overboard. But here's the thing about structured data is it's not just for voice, or it's not just for mobile or anything else, but it's a way of taking all this content that you can create in various content platforms and say, this is this, this over here is this. And it sounds a bit elementary, but then it allows Google and all other search engines or presentation layers to take that then and use it in the most applicable way. So it works for voice, but it could also do really well for Android Auto. It works really well for Alexa or Google Home. So people are interested in these snackable, what's the answer to this, or what do I need right now, bits of information. And structured data lets you package those up so beautifully with a bow. And that'll show up in the SERPs, with different rich results, but it can show up in a variety of other ways. And with search being integrated into so many things, including browser listings, I want to tell Google exactly what my stuff is. I don't think it's necessarily going to boost rankings, but it's certainly going to make sure that if there's an applicable question or a query, my stuff's really clear that it can be the answer.
And it's a level of it's a level of discipline that SEOs need to have. It's a free tag. And you evaluate your site, and it's just what you should be doing as an SEO. Because it's the new meta, basically. It's this next level of communication that we can control, go straight to the engines, and it also gives us a bit of consistency that we know our clients' products, we know our clients' pages. You got to be on the page. You got to know the entire topography, right?
That's a really good way of saying it too. Is it really? You have to become familiar and almost intimate with some of those product pages, because you're going to be, I love getting in the structured data testing tool and writing my own and seeing the errors and working through it. I'm not the fastest at writing JSON LD, but I certainly like trying. So it's a fun way, like you said, to just become really familiar with that and how the data is presented on the web page itself, so you can anticipate issues. And I also think it exposes a lot of SEOs to something like JSON. something that they may not be as familiar with, but it's a really good stepping stone for understanding some of the other technology that sites are built on. So it's a good way in your own place with the testing tool and with schema.org to start getting your hands wet and to start thinking about the architecture and the languages used and how that is actually represented on a page.
Yeah, it's some next level
really
stuff
is
there.
just
It really
meta
is.
text.
And
I
that's,
mean,
that's what we were going to ask you, where SEO should go learn, and schema.org is the place right there. Very good.
yeah, I mean, there are other vocabularies, but that's the one you go to. And I fit a lot in the structured data testing tool. It doesn't integrate what the index sees. It's really a one-off tool, but it does allow you to make changes in real time and revalidate, kind of like Chrome DevTools, but for people who are a little intimidated by that. So it's fabulous.
Very good. In the pre-show, you mentioned that SEOs need to be aware of built-in bias in regards to algorithms, machine learning, and voice search. What are these biases, and how do you work with them?
Good. This is the old garbage in, garbage out, right? So I think a lot of people think that something that's done by a machine or an algorithm is automatically neutral, but algorithms are built by people. And often our technology is built by white people in the US. So
True. Yeah. All right.
It's true. And you see that sometimes. I think even Google has said things about it, like when there's some issues with hreflang tags or representing certain types of things in different countries, their team that handles hreflang or their team that does certain international things are primarily based in Mountain View. So they may not have the experience of going through. And I went to a session recently on machine learning fairness and bias. And there was one really amazing question for image search, because images do a lot of cool things where, think of what a storefront looks like to you. And then think about what a storefront looks like to people in different countries, rural areas, all the different continents, time of the year, depending on if they're open air markets, like just trying to represent that, or even like a wedding. A wedding ceremony is another like example with just so many variations. So knowing how broad it can be and how essentially expensive it is to think about those cultural inherencies and who's actually programming those algorithms will make you go, oh man, so I'm looking at a pretty narrow view here. So the output may not be perfect. We know that there's going to be bias. I think that it becomes apparent too with certain types of ranking on pages. Certain types of ways of grammar and spelling and languages, we could see bias there as well. I don't know that there's a lot we can do about it right now, other than we keep calling it out if we see it, but just being aware. And what I'm hoping is that we'll see more of an evolution with machine learning and with algorithms that seem a little more worldly as we go on, or at least properly localized.
It'd be great to be able to have that feedback. I agree with you. There's going to be an evolution of a kind of a checks and balances system in AI, that it's not dialed into a particular region of the world, but it starts spreading itself out and gives a base, a commonality language, right, as opposed to a nationality language. But it'd be great to be able to have feedback back to the developers to be able to know that this is going the right direction, and that we have to be a good deal more open to and understand how to code non-biasedly, so to speak. I mean, otherwise you're just kind of feeding the beast. Do you see any kind of steerage coming from Google and the other? Well, it's Google. Let's just say Google.
Let's talk about Google.
Do you see them ever be able to bring this information to developers? Say, hey, this is how everything's working to a particular degree, and you should code this. You should tag to these specifics to be more worldly.
Yes. So I'm going to pick on Google a little bit, just because I recently heard someone present about.
Well, be careful. The government just picked on them a little bit as well.
Oh,
so
I mean, pick on with love. It's like in fifth grade when I have a crush, sort of thing. It's fine. It's fine. So I listened to a talk, and I would be happy to provide you with the person who gave the talk and resources included. But she essentially talked about machine learning and fairness in machine learning, and how you build that in, and how you check that, and how you continually tweak the machine learning model. Like, what other data do you put in there? And there were a couple good points brought up. So first off, they are doing a lot of educational sessions with developers and business owners and other types of folks all over the world, which I think is fantastic. I can probably link you to those resources. I think they're all public. And the second part is, it brings up this really interesting discussion around censorship and representing bias and trying to break that down in a way that may be reserved for, say, government agencies or higher discussions. And Google understands, from what I understand, is that that's not really their job, but they can move Google fast. Essentially, they can sprint on something and start getting data and then essentially hand it over. So I'm hoping that's part of the evolution too, is that they're pulling a lot of data and experimenting and documenting now and helping where they can, so that it also becomes something that falls under a broader umbrella and that other people are monitoring that and making adjustments, and it's not just a Google thing.
Oh, that's interesting. It's almost like a UN of coding ethics.
Yeah, I mean, the internet's a goddamn mess. So like, where do you start, right? And there was one other tool so there's another tool that Google has that I think is really interesting. It's a Perspective API, and it essentially allows you to either monitor comments you see in the level of toxicity, for authors to check themselves if they're writing something really awful, or if I'm a moderator of a site, to monitor what I have. And there's a lot of really cool things built into that, but it's the same thing. Like, how close do you get to skirting censorship? So I think putting the controls back on the users where they can, and then they open up a lot of this stuff. So the API is totally open. You can use everything. I think that's their way of saying, hey, we know what needs to be done. We're not saying we're the right ones, but we can start. And I think that's a good place to be. Like, I think it's helpful that they're doing that.
I think they're the only ones that actually start the conversation because they have that much data, so they can bring us to the table, but they certainly don't want to own that space and dictate. But yeah, all right, I'll give you that. So you're with DeepCrawl. I wanted to jump back over to the tool. Anything? Sorry, that was a good deal. More. I probably should have given it a little bit more space there. But hey, let's go back to some really cool tools. DeepCrawl is again a fantastic tool. What's new in the future, or what's going to be new in the future for DeepCrawl?
All sorts of things. Actually, Feely, who's one of our board members, just released a blog about a bunch of features that people don't know about. So I'm not an official spokesperson, and I think my company knows it would be a liability to make me one. But
we're going to have a disclaimer at the beginning of the show.
Hey, no, not recorded, right? It's fine. So the tool itself is great. There's a ton of data. One thing that's bogged DeepCrawl down in the past is that it was slow. They have totally rebuilt a new transformer from the ground up, and it's in beta now. It is so much faster and amazing. I love it. So, I can crawl and process and do output easily for 1 million pages a day, which that can take a lot longer with other types of web crawlers. And when you see the types of data that DeepCrawl's gathering and how we do the trending data, it's pretty impressive. They're always building new features. I would say that we suffer sometimes from the myopic view of developers where we build something that does a lot of things, but maybe isn't super pretty. So I think DeepCrawl has a lot to it and has some great visualizations, but I think there's also some really smart, sharp folks on board that want to make sure that it appeals to the masses, because ultimately you have to judge a book by its cover and get in there. Everyone that we get in is really excited about what it does. We just want to get more people in there. But DeepCrawl has a full API. We integrate with Zapier and a bunch of other tools. We pull APIs in. It's pretty fun. It's been this. Okay, so personal story. I made a couple terrible decisions on jobs that I've taken historically, and they've just been a bit of a bummer. It's the first job in a while where I am like, oh man, I am so excited. I'm excited about my team. I'm excited about the tool and where we're going. It feels great to be a part of DeepCrawl and where they're headed. And I could be a bit of a stickler. So that's saying something. They are European, so I get health insurance. So maybe that's the big thing too. That's a good way to bribe people nowadays, right? Do you want healthcare? Say anything. But they
come on, you're selling yourself too cheap. Come on.
Oh yeah, it's good. But DeepCrawl, it's getting faster. It's getting better. There's something like 260 stock reports plus a ton of filters. So we're just going to keep finding ways to bring data that's useful. Each client has such a unique user case that, it's our goal to make sure that whatever the use case is, we're going to give you the information that you need to do it well.
Deep Crawl's come a long way, and we've had this tool. I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 years, and they've been participatory in a lot of conferences as well. And it is great to be able to see them because they truly stand out as a technical SEO's tool set. There's a lot of SaaS software that do analysis and they do spidering and they can make some nice reports. But if there is a technical SEO challenge, Deep Crawl is always it's above and beyond tool as opposed to some of what the standard crawlers and auditors are, and we've used a bunch of them. But especially with large sites, this thing is awesome because if you got 20,000 pages, 30,000 pages, you go with something that can actually tackle that and make sense of the global fixes as well as some of the nuances. Sorry, not trying to.
Sell me.
There it is.
I love it. I mean, and with the custom extractions that we do, because we support regex, you can find anything you're looking for. And I also like scraping competitors too, but in a really nice, friendly way. I will just say that if you haven't tried Deep Crawl and you're a little curious, just send me an email or a DM on Twitter because I would be happy to run a sample crawl and let you poke around a little bit. So.
Yeah, especially
I think Deep Crawl's always been really good about just sharing and opening it up. If you have questions, I mean, obviously they make money by people subscribing, but volunteering and giving back to the community is really big for me and is big for Deep Crawl too. They actually put in a lot of time and effort giving information back to the community, like with John Mueller's Webmaster Hangouts notes.
Yep.
So if you're in a bind and haven't used one, or you're curious, or just want to take a peek, just let me know. I'll run a crawl for you.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, they've added a lot. I'm just kind of going through our own account right now.
Are you running a crawl right now?
Yeah, I'm running a crawl right now. I'm crawling Deep Crawl. No, they've added a lot of tools, and it's also all things being equal, much better organized now than it used to be.
Good.
So yeah, keep up the good work. Absolutely. And we highly recommend for our SEO audience out there, use this. On top of that, other digital marketers, you got to know the technical SEO side of things, at least understand what this factor is, because you don't have a full view of the digital inside of digital if you're not actually paying attention to what the bots see, because you could truly be impeding such a level of success. So there's everybody should be a technical SEO. I mean, right?
We're super cool. Join me.
Yeah.
Drink and watch Star Trek.
We have drinks. We have cookies.
And have really great drinking games, apparently.
Evidently so.
Sometimes you just need to do what you got to do to keep afloat.
There's a lot of code that you got to look at. Hey, we appreciate your time today. It's truly a pleasure to talk technical SEO, especially with a tool set like Deep Crawl. Hey, every show we kind of finish off asking our guest a couple questions. First and foremost, what bugs you about your industry right now?
So I thought about this, and there's kind of two things. I feel like the trope that Google's evil is just a little exhausting. Thinking about the privately held company and the different models and as much information as they give us and access to information, I don't really feel like they owe us a ton. That's me. I regularly have shoes thrown at me though, so I get it. But it just feels a little tired and negative, and I don't think we need that. And then I think the other thing is there's a lot of misinformation out there. Everyone's struggling to get eyes on their content, and it feels like SEO sometimes does a bit of shock jocking in their journalism or in their blogs. And I get it. You want people to read your content. Your content's great. We love you all. But the doom and gloom stuff can be really difficult and challenging for small business owners. So just, wish we had more consideration of how that could come across to people who aren't SEOs, but are just desperately looking for basic information.
It can be scary out there. There's a lot of information that can make your jaw drop if you don't know what you're looking at. Yeah. So
do an SEO conference. It's terrifying.
No, it's not that bad. They got cool swag. Come on. All right. Conversely, what excites you about your industry right now?
So I really do feel like we're in an upswing in terms of how we treat each other as human beings. I So preface this, yes, I drink a little, but I'm also just a naive optimist by nature. And, I left the SEO industry at one point for like 5 or 6 years because it really felt toxic and there was a lot of snake oil. I don't see that anymore. I see a lot of people standing up and helping people. I see companies collaborating. I see people donating more time and services and really writing about their strategies in their blogs instead of keeping everything secret. So I'm just really excited to see just more incredibly smart people. Like I have a gift for being the dumbest person in the room, and it's easy to do now because SEO is full of brilliant, brilliant minds, but also that they seem to be leading with a little more compassion and sharing. And that feels really good.
No, well said. Well said. Is there anything that we can promote for you today?
Just, be pals, be nice, come be my friend. The next speaking engagement I have is in Atlanta, 9th through the 12th. I'm speaking at the Angular Atlanta conference. So I really do feel like that barrier between SEO and the devs need to break down a little bit. So this is me doing my best to try to reach across the aisle and figure out how best to communicate with them. So wish me luck.
Good luck.
We'll see how it goes, but that'll be the next place I'm speaking. Otherwise, I would just say I love to hear from people and to help. So usually Twitter is the best place to harass me and just promote that I'm here to help. And so is DeepCrawl. All
right, then. Well, any final thoughts for the non-technical technical SEO digital marketers that are out there? Can you give a tidbit that would excite them to start plugging away and appreciating that the analytical side of the fence?
I think the big thing is just breaking down that barrier that technical SEO requires certain intelligence. It doesn't, obviously. But there are, the way that, I'm an art history major who was a really good waitress and dishwasher. But the way that you can learn is to start with a single tool or a certain thing and poke around. And I think that can be really exciting. It could add dimension to your job. And I know nobody has time, but if you can make a little bit of time, it's great. I also think that you should talk to people who do that work because usually they want to share. Usually when I talk to someone in their field and just ask them to give me 10 minutes about one thing that excites them, I come away feeling really renewed. So tech SEO is a door that's open to many, many people. You're not too late to start if you haven't yet. And it's wicked fun.
It is, and it doesn't really get the applause that it should, to be honest with you. Yeah, graphic design, social media, those are the starry-eyed set of people. But honestly, the meat and the potatoes, actually working out the plumbing and fixing stuff, and seeing it work.
If I'm doing my job, you don't see it. You don't notice it. That means I'm doing my job. So it's a little tricky, but I don't know.
Oh.
Cool. It's fun.
There you go. That's why we have reports. See, we did do something. All right. Well, Ashley, it's been a pleasure talking to you today. We certainly appreciate what you're doing over at DeepCrawl, and keep up the good work. We thank you greatly. We want to make sure that our listeners and our audience track you down and accost you. Give some props to you out there on Twitter. Berman Hale is her Twitter, as well as go over to LinkedIn and check out Ashley Berman Hale. We appreciate it greatly, and we certainly would love to have you back on the show talking about SEO in the future.
I would love it. Thanks. You guys are fabulous.
You're more than welcome. More than welcome. Well, thanks for listening to Edge of the Web. Special thank you to our colleagues at Site Strategics, especially our guest, Ashley Berman Hale. Check out all the must-see videos over at edgeofthewebradio.com and listen, jump into the iTunes, jump into the Google Play. We're over on Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Podbean. No, we're not. And pretty much all the aggregators. If we're not where you are, how in the world are you listening to us? Anyway, be sure to give us some reviews and ratings, because we want to know how we're doing on the show on a regular basis, and let us know who you want us to talk to. Hey, I think we're wrapping up the year, aren't we?
This is our last show of 2018. We'll be back 2019 to kick things off with Steve Woodruff. He has a new book called Clarity Wins.
Very good.
So it's talking about how to simplify your message.
Very good. Very good. Well, so we're wrapping up 2018. Thanks so much for all of our audience, and we appreciate your feedback. And you know what? Be safe and have a fantastic season. God bless you, and we'll see you in 2019. Bye-bye. Don't be a piece of cyber driftwood.